Right now, before you even decided to, your thumb is already moving toward your phone. You didn't choose this moment. Nothing happened. No notification buzzed. No message arrived. And yet, here you are, unlocking the screen, scrolling past nothing in particular, looking for something you can't quite name. You tell yourself it's boredom. You tell yourself it's habit. You tell yourself that if you just had more willpower, you could put it down and leave it down. But the real answer is far stranger than willpower. The pull you feel isn't coming from Silicon Valley. It isn't coming from an app designer in a conference room. It's coming from somewhere much older. Somewhere written into you long before phones, before screens, before electricity itself. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is, the world changed, and your brain never got the memo. To understand what's really happening when you check your phone for the 96th time today, you have to go back. Not to the invention of the smartphone, not even to the invention of the internet. You have to go back to a savanna in East Africa, hundreds of thousands of years ago, where your ancestors woke up every single morning facing the same brutal math problem. Where is the food today? They didn't know. That was the whole point. A berry bush that was full last week might be stripped bare now. A watering hole that drew animals yesterday might be silent today. The information was never guaranteed. It was never the same twice. Every patch of land was a question mark, and the only way to get an answer was to go and look. And this, it turns out, is exactly the kind of uncertainty your brain loves most. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran an experiment that would end up explaining something about you that he never could have predicted. He put pigeons in a box with a lever. Peck the lever, get a food pellet. Simple enough. But then he changed the rules. Instead of a pellet every single time, the pellet arrived at random intervals. Sometimes after 1 peck, sometimes after 20. The pigeons didn't slow down. They sped up. They pecked harder, faster, and more obsessively than the pigeons who got a reward every single time. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, which is a complicated way of saying something very simple. Unpredictable rewards are more addictive than predictable ones. A guaranteed payoff barely holds your attention. An uncertain one grabs it and won't let go. Why would that be true? Because uncertainty isn't a flaw in your motivation system, it's the entire engine. Decades later, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz put this idea under a microscope. Literally. He recorded the activity of dopamine neurons in monkeys while they waited for a small reward, just a squirt of juice. What he found rewired how scientists understood the brain's reward system completely. Dopamine, it turned out, wasn't really about the reward itself. It was about the prediction of the reward, and even more powerfully, about the gap between what was expected and what actually happened. When a reward was certain, dopamine barely moved. When a reward was uncertain, dopamine surged, not at the moment the reward arrived, but in the moments of not knowing whether it would. You don't crave the candy. You crave the question of whether the candy is coming. Schultz pushed the experiment further. He trained the monkeys to expect a juice reward after a specific signal, a light or a tone. Once the pattern was learned, something unexpected happened. The dopamine spike moved. It stopped firing at the moment the juice arrived. It started firing at the moment the signal appeared instead, at the first hint that a reward might be on its way. Your brain had already done the same thing to you long before you owned a phone. Somewhere along the way, the buzz in your pocket became the signal. Not the message itself, but the small mechanical promise that a message might exist. By the time you actually look at the screen, the dopamine has already done most of its work. The check is the reward. What you find there is almost beside the point. This is the exact mechanism sitting underneath your phone. Every time you unlock it, you are pulling the lever. You don't know what's behind the screen. Maybe a message from someone you've been waiting to hear from. Maybe nothing at all. Maybe a like, a comment, a notification that makes your chest tighten for half a second before you've even read it. Your brain doesn't care what's actually there. It cares that it doesn't know yet. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have watched this same hunger play out in real time, just with berries instead of notifications. Kristen Hawkes spent years studying the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last populations on Earth still living largely by foraging. What she documented wasn't a population calmly